Hi, everyone, and welcome to my 10 questions with video series where I ask virtual assistants all about their business. So, question one, who are you? Tell me about your business.
I'm Denise, and I live in Ontario, Canada. I'm living with my husband and our youngest son, hoping he flees the nest soon. And
Well,
I started my business in May of 2016. Started out as an associate for two other VAs and spent about 18 years of my working life in some sort of admin role and kind of changed with the jobs, but it was still very much admin based.
what's the name of your business?
I just use my name, Denise Riches, virtual assistant.
Fantastic. Question two, what did you do before you became a virtual assistant, and what was the catalyst for that?
I spent 15 years in retail, and at the beginning, it was very, very fun. It was a very energetic work environment. It wasn't toxic, but it gradually became toxic. And I guess what did it for me was the fact that it was starting to feel more and more like I was being driven out. Like, let's give her all the crap jobs and maybe she'll leave and go away. and
Oh, God.
I think part of it too was the fact that I was always complaining when I came home from work, and I was seeing the misery that I was causing my own family. They were like, do something about it, but I felt stuck, and I realized that I was the only one who could actually do anything about it. So yeah, I turned in my notice and just went for it.
God. So, what was your biggest fear? This is question three, by the way. So, what was your biggest fear about setting up your own business, and how did you overcome that?
Failure is definitely the biggest fear I had. I had a bit of a meltdown in the parking lot before I handed in my notice, and my husband totally said, "Hey, do you want to keep doing this? Do you still want to keep working here, or do you think you can do this on your own? Can you be a virtual assistant?" And I said, "I can do it. I know I can, but I'm scared because of that regular income." So I knew that as a freelancer, the income depended largely on me. I wasn't just getting paid for showing up. I actually had to go out and find the work and find the income. But it was definitely failure as my biggest fear. But here I am years later.
So that's interesting, isn't it? Because so your biggest fear was sort of failure, but the way you overcame it really was your husband, being there to go, Denise, do you really want to
Yeah.
keep putting yourself through this?
hmm
Yeah.
It
So
could
it's a
have
good
been
job that
selfish
he was
reasons
there.
too. He could have been like, "We're so done hearing about all your complaints. Just get over it. Do something."
My mum was the same. She used to come back before she retired. She'd come back from her job and she'd like moan about it. And we're like, well, why don't you leave? And there'd always be some reason, oh,
Yeah.
because it'd be too hard to get another job or whatever. But she'd moan about it to my dad, and my dad's like, I can't do anything about this. Like, you're the only person that can, you or your boss are the only people that can actually change this situation. Yeah, it's difficult.
hmm
So, question four, how has your life changed since becoming a virtual assistant?
I'm not miserable anymore. um, I definitely have a better, healthier outlook on my work life. It's a lot of freedom that took me a long time to get used to, because you have that employee mindset and it's really hard to shake. You spend, decades in a work environment where you're told what to do all the time, and God forbid you're given some freedom. So, I can choose when I work, how long I work, what my vacations are, and that to me was the best. And I try not to feel guilty about it because I chose this. I decided I'm done with all of that. I want to make my own decisions. And being a virtual assistant, I get to do those things. I get to say, hey, I'm taking the afternoon off and I'm just going to spend it in my backyard. And I'm not going to feel guilty about it because that's why I chose this.
It's easy to feel guilty about it, I think, because you're so used to kind of doing 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. But when you're not, you almost feel like you're being lazy. And yet
Yeah,
that's the reason that you set up a business in the first place, was to have that flexibility.
very
It's
much
almost
so.
like it's almost like being institutionalized, I think, like
Yes.
Stockholm syndrome or something.
Yes, I totally agree.
So with question 5, what is the most rewarding part of being a VA? Is it around that freedom that you just mentioned?
Hmm. The fact that I get to choose who I work with and I get to choose the tasks that I like to do. So if a client and I just aren't we're not getting along as well as we had hoped, then it's time to part ways. And I get to make that decision. Whereas when I worked in a full time job, it doesn't matter if you don't like it, suck it up, do it anyway. It's what you're getting paid to do. But as a virtual assistant, you get to choose those tasks. If I like to work on newsletters, for example, I can do that. And all of my clients need that work done. So that's what I enjoy doing.
Wonderful. That's hard as well at the beginning. I think that when you first start out, you kind of think that you need to take on every piece of work that comes your way. I think that's something that happens more when you become established, isn't it? That you take control over who you
Hmm.
work with. It's a mindset change.
Yeah, because you're going through the motions. You're pulling away from that employee mindset and you're starting to really test those the waters of freedom, I guess.
Yeah. So, and now question 6. So, on the flip side of that, what's the most challenging part, do you think, of being a VA, running your own business?
The fact that you got to go out and get the work. You have to do the marketing, you have to talk to people, you have to network. The work doesn't just usually come to you. It requires some effort, some planning, and some strategy. And I don't go to networking events. I rarely leave the house.
Mhm.
But I have to find that's another challenge. I have to find another way to do the networking and marketing. And I chose to do that via social media.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because the interview that I last held, that virtual assistant gets all of her work only from networking. And it was funny because she, in referrals, and she suddenly went, well, maybe I should do a bit more social media. And I said, no, because what you're doing is working.
Yeah.
And because of her type of client, the person that she likes to work with, she's more likely to meet them in the local networking event. And
Mhm.
I'm the same as you. They are quite particular people, and so I'm more likely to find them online and not locally as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, it is hard because it's all down to you, isn't it? When you run your own business, like
It
you
is.
can't just cruise and things
Yeah.
keep changing. And yeah, that's sort of it's exciting but also scary, I think. But it's
Yeah.
all down to you.
Yeah. Especially when you're first starting out because you're like, wow, I'm opening my own business. And then you're like, whoa, I got to bring the work in. It's all me.
It's all me. That's the thing I like. I really liked when it was all me. I remember just thinking, like, even when I was a kid, I remember thinking, like, I want to be the boss of me. When
Hmm.
like little kids go, you can't be the boss of me,
Yeah.
that type of thing. I felt that with my actual bosses. I was like, whether I fail or succeed, I want that to be down to me rather than someone else. I
Hmm.
want to be the person that makes the decisions in my life.
Hmm.
Yeah, it had never occurred to me as well. Like I didn't meet any freelancers when I was growing up. It was only when I moved to Brighton that when I moved there, I met people that ran their own business, and I was like, oh, it's a thing. Like people can. There's another way. There's another option.
That's so interesting. I don't think I knew anybody who ran their own business either or was a freelancer. So I felt very much like I was pioneering it in my own area, in my city. I mean, there's other people out there obviously doing it, but I didn't know any of them. So,
Yeah. Because
yeah,
why would you? I guess unless they were friends of the family, you wouldn't meet them because they're working at home, right? So you're not
exactly.
going to go networking because you work for a company, So yeah, I
Mhm.
guess there should be like a service, like a public service where, freelancers go into schools and talk to kids and go, there's another way. Like they don't tell you this, but you can do what you like.
It's exactly true because my kids, because they heard of all of my retail horror stories, they refuse to work in retail. That's the last thing they wanna do because they know what people are like. I think I might have scarred them for life.
So question 7, how do you get your clients? So you were saying social media.
Mhm, mhm.
Tell me a bit more about that.
I had your help, your lovely help. I had to do a major overhaul. I use LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook too, but it doesn't bring me leads, so I don't spend as much time there as I do on LinkedIn. And most of my clients are on LinkedIn rather than Facebook, so I might end up dropping Facebook in the future, but it's mostly about addressing your ideal client and talking to them specifically about some of their pain points and sharing how you can help resolve those pain points and giving examples and testimonials and being in their face with it. It seems a little, what's the word, too much in your face, but really when you think of the percentage of people that actually see your posts, it's really nothing.
Or that LinkedIn even allow to see it, because you've got to
Yeah,
get past first you've got to get past the algorithm so that it's, I have a lot of people that I'm connected to and follow me. And even then I see my reach and I'm like, it's a fraction of them because it's what
yeah,
LinkedIn decides to share. You have to be
yeah.
connected to those people in the first place. They have to be looking at their screen at that point rather than being
Mhm.
too, ideally your client's too busy, right? So,
Yeah.
they have to be seeing it. So yeah, I've seen this where people agonize over one post. Also, they have to be the picture has to be interesting enough for them to read the one line that's at the top. There's so many
Yes.
obstacles in the way.
Mhm.
One thing that I've seen you do actually on LinkedIn is that you do virtual coffees, I've seen. So what happens there?
So that was part of my networking overhaul. I noticed a coach was in a Facebook group I was in, and she put this post up and talked about, hey, let's have a no pressure coffee meeting and get to know one another. And I'm like, that is brilliant. I need to be doing that because I don't do networking and I need to get to know. I need to actually have a conversation with the people that I'm connecting to on LinkedIn. And this is my way of doing it. So I started having coffee chats, and a few clients did come from those coffee chats. But that's not really what it's about. It is truly just to get on their radar and have a conversation. And after that chat, I also promote them too. And I tell my audience who I've met, what they do, how they can help them, just to, scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because, as I've often said, people have been doing business for thousands of years and it's always been the same way, which is having a conversation and like, here's the thing that you need, here's the thing that I have, they match, I can help you. And it's not
Mhm,
sort of salesy, you can do something that will change their life. And
mhm.
I think a lot of VAs are very reluctant to sort of put themselves out there in that way. And I'm like, but that's literally what you do that's what the purpose of your job. So you have to, and you don't want to hide if you can help someone change their business, and why would you not want to tell them about that? So I used to meet people way back in the day when I was on Twitter. I used to try to meet a couple of people every week locally and say, hey, I know you from Twitter. Let's go for a coffee. And Fridays were good. Maybe I'd say like half an hour, buy you coffee. So they knew I wasn't going to like bend their ear. And I'd say to find out more about your business. But it had never occurred to me like you had to do it virtually. So it's
Mhm,
brilliant because often, like we said, your ideal client is not local.
mhm,
You work with coaches a lot, don't you? So they're not.
mhm. And it's tough too because I think a lot of admins are introverts. So putting yourself out there is quite a challenge, especially if you're not used to doing it. We like to work in the background, a lot of us.
Yes. One thing I've said as well is that being a virtual assistant is quite easy for the types of women that want to become virtual assistants, because it's not their that personality traits needed come quite naturally to them, and thinking a lot, overthinking, I suppose, detail
Yeah.
orientated. But you need a different skill set in order to be a business owner, and so that doesn't necessarily come naturally to everyone. I mean, how would you know how to run a business if you've
Never done
how
it
would you know?
before.
You're not, yeah, and you're not taught it at school, so it's difficult.
Which is why it's so
Um,
great that you run the group that you run, because you get to rub shoulders with other business owners and learn from them. It really is
yes.
beneficial.
Yeah, I think especially with the All Stars where everyone's at the same level and you can talk about things that other VAs will understand, that, once you've got past that initial stage, these are the
It
next
gets
level
easier.
concerns. Yeah, because once you set up a business, you're not done. Like
Yeah,
I say a learning curve, but it's not even a curve. It's like a
keeps
slope.
going.
There's always something else to learn, right? So, question number 8. What do you wish you'd known when you first started out?
I wish I knew more about marketing earlier on and the types of people to market to, because in the beginning, I connected with everybody, whether they were good for me or not. And when I overhauled my marketing last year, I dropped everybody that didn't fit with me. Anybody that I didn't think I would ever work with, I dropped them all. And I started connecting with the types of people that I would probably end up working with at some point. I mean, I'm not going to work with all of them, but just to get in the habit of connecting with my ideal clients, I would have tried to learn to do that a lot earlier instead of wasting years connecting with the wrong people who are never going to hire
Yeah.
me.
Because I think a lot of VAs as well, when they first start out, they kind of think, oh, well, everybody could be a client. And theoretically, everybody can.
Mhm.
But how do you market to everybody? You know what I mean? It's just you can be, you have to be very generic in that way. And that's not appealing to
Mhm.
people when they're seeing it. It's like, well, really, you're just the same as everyone else. Like, what's different about you? Who do you actually work with? I think
Mhm.
it's one of the aspects that VAs struggle with the most, actually, is that taking on taking on everything that comes their way, but also women, especially, I think, they kind of think, well, somebody wants something, so therefore I have to give it to them. They're used to
Mm.
being sort
People
of
pleasing.
people pleasers, maybe the person at work. Often it's like she'll do it, she'll get it done. They organize sort of Christmas parties, and the leaving card that goes round, and they make the coffee and they kind of make sure everyone's okay, and at home they look after the family and the kids.
Mhm.
And so if a client or a prospect is like, I need this doing, it's almost like, yes, how can I help? Like, yeah, I can. And then they go, well, I don't really know how to do that, or that isn't a good fit for me. And then they get themselves in a tangle because it's
Mhm.
sort of years of training, I suppose, that's
Mhm.
working against them.
Yeah, it comes with experience, I think, just like a lot of other things. I mean, at the beginning, you want to take on everyone, and then you realize, no, these are the types of people I really like to work with, so I'm just going to focus on them.
So I've seen that your husband is actually setting up his business now. So has it been helpful to have you to say, these are the things that I wished I'd done before, like these are mistakes that you might make? Has that been useful for him, do you think?
We're quite close. So he's watched all of this happen and unfold firsthand. We often will have a drink or two and just chat about work, both of us, and just spill everything and get it all out on the table. And then we're done. We don't have to do any shop talk for the rest of the weekend. But yeah, like I said, he's watched a lot of it firsthand, and so he understands what some of the challenges are, but he also now has a place to go if he has questions.
Yeah, he's ready to make his own set of mistakes. Let's have a look. So we've got question 9. How do you handle sort of work-life balance? Do you have a work-life balance even?
Mhm. Very much so, very much so. A few years ago, I started taking Fridays off. for two reasons. We like to enjoy the great outdoors in the summer months, so we'll skip off on a Friday afternoon, go camping or something. But in the winter, I focus a lot of that time on my own business, and I will hold those coffee chats, and I will connect with new people on LinkedIn, and really market myself on those days. So another thing for work-life balance is your boundaries. I'm very firm in my boundaries because I've had clients in the past show me that I need to have firm boundaries, and
Yeah.
it's really helped. And I've actually had other VAs say, "Hey, I love that you are firm in this. Like, this is it. If you don't catch me by this time, you're waiting until the next workday." But it's important for me because when I close my computer at the end of the day, I'm done. I switch off, and it's time for my personal life. I have very strict boundaries as far as my work day and my work week are concerned, and all of my clients have been very understanding about it so far.
It's fantastic. I think for me, I find it difficult sometimes because I think, like a lot of VAs, we kind of like what we do. So that means some
Mm.
people can go, oh, well, I'll just spend some more time learning this thing, or oh, here's a new thing, or AI, and let's do that, and let's get stuck into Canva, or let's do a course, or you can. I sometimes can't find that because I don't have children either. I'm not, I'm by myself. So
Hmm.
it's easy sometimes for me to continue to work, and I think, no, no, just, or I'll maybe justify it. I might go, yeah, but I went to the supermarket earlier, or I didn't start till 10, so I need to work a bit more. But you're like, why do I need to?
Hmm. Hmm. Exactly.
Put that on yourself. So finally, question 10, what advice would you have for anyone who is considering virtual assistants as a career?
You got to jump in. Nobody can make that decision for you. I really think that it, as scary and overwhelming as it can be, because you've never done it before, it's well worth it in the end, and you'll be thanking yourself down the road for doing the best thing for you. When you work for someone else, they can let you go at any time. They really can, and clients can too. But that's why you have more than just one or two clients. You bring in a few clients, and then whenever somebody says, "Hey, I don't think we're working out anymore," or "I've decided to go a different way with my business," you can easily replace them. um, you got to jump in with both feet. You got to try it. You're not going to know if you can do it unless you actually give it a shot.
Thank you. That was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Denise.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.